Hey, it's Amale, and today I want to talk about forgiveness. As everyone, I think I had to forgive a lot of people, a lot of situations. What is interesting about forgiveness is that n- no one gives us the manual to on how to forgive or explain to us how to forgive. And I think it should probably be the first thing that we learn growing up because I know that forgiveness is a very hard and difficult process. It's really hard to forgive, especially when you don't know how to forgive some things, depending of the situation or the thing that you need to forgive or that you have to forgive. Forgiveness should always be a choice, and while you don't have to forgive, I would recommend to try to forgive. I noticed personally that the best way to find freedom and to be able to detach from it, not completely separate yourself from the situation or the thing that happened, but more so to detach from it and to not be touched by it as much. The way I see forgiveness is saying, yes, it's not okay what happened, but I'm not gonna let it stop me. Forgiveness to me is not saying it's okay what happened, and it's not justifying or siding with it or supporting it. It's more about cutting the thread that links you to the situation or the thing that happened. I think that when something happened, when a situation happened or a thing happened, I think a connection is created with the thing that happened, with the situation, and with things that happen around us. The same thing as with people that we encounter. The way I see it, every time a situation happen or something happen, it creates like a link or connection with the situation, and to be able to detach yourself from this situation or from this person or that thing that happened, um, you need to cut the connection or the thread. I like to see it as a thread, just a little like in Hercules, with the witches that were trying to like cut the thread. I really see it this way. It's like we encounter people, we encounter situation and things that happen, and then those things kind of get connected to us and kind of we get attached to it. The only way to detach from it is to actually cut it, you know? And so I really like this image, and it makes forgiveness way easier. Another way to look at it is saying, this thing happened, but I'm not gonna let it stop me. I'm not gonna give it my power. I'm not gonna give my power to this situation, to that person, or to that thing that happened. And I'm gonna take it back, and um, I'm gonna detach from this situation that happened. I know personally it was the best decision I did. In my experience, forgiveness is the hardest thing to do in life. Whether it's forgiving yourself for acting a certain way or doing something or not doing something, or someone else, or even like a situation that happened, or a situation that you let happen, or you think that you let happen. I think it's probably the hardest thing to do in life. If you are able to forgive, you will find peace. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying there's a clear way to do it, and maybe you will have your way to forgive, but I would definitely recommend to try to forgive, because forgiveness is the only way that you can move on from something. By forgiving, by choosing to forgive, you then can move on from it, you know? Because staying mad at some situation that happened, or staying mad at someone for doing something, or being mad at yourself because you let something happen, it's only gonna keep you stuck. And I think the best way is to move on. We are meant to move from situation and not stay stuck on something that happened like years ago, you know. Another thing is to actually visualize the person or the situation, and to actually see the the see the thread linking you both being cut, if that makes sense. Um, I like to do that, especially when it's about people. For situation, it can be a little harder to imagine that, but I always done it. Since I was younger, I always try to just imagine the person in my head. I would like see the person in my head, and I would imagine this thread that is linking us, which symbolize our the connection. And I would visualize myself cutting the thread that is linking us, you know. And this is really the best way to actually cut the connection between you and this person or situation. um, I do think that the road to healing and freedom is by forgiving. And there's many times in my life, I'm gonna talk about my experience because I think maybe it can help you. But in my experience, I had to, every time something happened, I take a step back, and I would take time just being by myself, and really trying to understand the situation and the thing that happened. And it's really by reflecting that you can understand the situation and actually start detaching from it. I would say I have a few ways to actually start forgiving. The first is, if it's a situation, I would take a time just reflecting. I would go back to the situation, and I would see or try to analyze how it could have gone differently. Most often, you notice that it couldn't have been different because, based on what you knew back then, or what was happening around you, and based on circumstances, start to realize that it couldn't have been any different. Obviously, when it's something that you did or you think you did, it's also the best way to reflect on the situation and say, oh, maybe I should have acted this way instead of this way, or try to see how you could have acted different way. But I do think it's really by going back to the situation and actually see how it could have been different, or realizing that it couldn't have been any different. Most of the time, you can see a situation through many angles, but still you're gonna realize that it couldn't have been any other way, and it couldn't have happened in another way. I love doing that. Just going back to situations, realizing that you can take a situation in every perspective, and you can see that this situation couldn't have happened any other way. And yeah, it's very interesting. Obviously, there's a situation that could have been different, maybe by how you would have acted, or maybe something that you would have done. But even with that, most of the time, you acted in a way based on what you knew, and maybe based on how you've been taught. And so, even going back to the situation and seeing the situation and trying to maybe understand how it happened, you realize that it couldn't have been any other way. This simple way of going back to a situation and trying to understand why it happened and how it couldn't happen any other way, or how it could have been another way, it can help you accept the situation or understand it. And this thing can help you actually move on from it. When it's a person, I have a different process or different way of trying to forgive. Most of the time, I think I do this subconsciously. It's not really conscious, but I try to actually imagine being them. So I imagine being them and try to see how they would act, or how I would act if I was thinking like them. And again, coming from a place of understanding, most of the time it gets easier to forgive. And I think this is the best way to really move on from a situation from a place of understanding. So yeah, that's all I have for dealing with forgiveness. But also I think that everyone has their own way to forgive. I don't think there's only one way to do it. I think also it will depend of the situation, or the thing that happened, or the, that thing that you're trying to forgive. And again, you're not obligated to forgive, and you don't have to forgive, even though in my experience it's the best thing I did. And I do think it's really, it's the best way to actually find peace and find freedom. But I do understand that it can be hard for some people to forgive, and I completely understand that. And I would never push someone to forgive, because ultimately it's their choice, if they want to forgive or not. Um, just standing on their shoes and understanding that this is their choice, and they are the only one to actually take the decision in the end. So yeah, that's all I have to say about it. I hope this video helped you, and yeah, I want to start making videos more like that, touching on some subjects that I really care about, and maybe help you along the way. So yeah, that's all I have. I hope you liked it, and I hope it helped you. And yeah, I will see you on my next video. Bye!